You know how in every scene, the best shows, the show that's like the show, all the guys are like douchey.
Yeah.
It's always run by two guys, and they all look the same no matter what city you're in, and they all dress the same. They're wearing like Allbirds, and they're like the green room vibes are always rancid for the good shows, and then for the bad shows, you meet people that are like really fun.
You have
to
the
be
best
around,
time,
and
yeah.
it's like, God, I wish you knew how to market, but ultimately, I am gonna look elsewhere for stage time. But you guys are cool, fun to be around.
Yeah. I don't know what that is, man. What our best show in Vegas, one of the people who runs it, he like used to bring me on stage by talking about my tits.
Jesus.
But you know, I'm a comic and there was 500 people in the crowd, so I was like, yeah, whatever, get wait.
Yeah. It sucks how numb we get to it.
It does.
Well, no one's ever brought me on stage by talking about my tits. If they did, I would be like, oh my God, thank you. You mean you can see them from all the way over there?
Vegas is garbage, man, though. It's like we're so backwards. And truthfully, it hasn't happened in the last few years for obvious reasons. But the amount of stuff that has been said about me into a microphone simply because I'm a woman who does comedy is crazy. It's crazy. Like, just the amount. I went to an open mic recently in Vegas. Well, I hosted the Wise Guys open mic. And there was 2 different open mic comics that talked about me during their set.
No.
And I'm like, why are you you have 3 minutes and you're using 45 of them?
Everything I know about Vegas is from me currently being in the middle of season 4 of Sister Wives.
Oh my God. That's about right, actually. That's about the right energy. It's real. It's a lot of Vegas comics, we joke that Vegas is where like old Predator comedians go to die.
Yeah.
Like, that's like, if they were turtles, that would be their sea. Like, that's
is that where Bill Cosby lives now?
Probably. I don't know. O.J. Simpson lives there.
Really?
John Bobbitt. The only like decent comic I know that lives there that anyone would know is John Caparulo. But you're too young to know who he is. Yeah. I am feeling 1,000 right now.
He sounds old to me. That's a lot of syllables in that last name. I'm a little. Have you ever noticed that?
That old guys have long names?
Yeah, and like young people have shorter last names. Is that? Yeah, young famous people.
That is weird. I mean, but how do you explain John Bon Jovi's son, John Bon Jovi?
What? John Bon Jovi's son
is named John
Bon Jovi, but he's not famous.
Well, he's kind of famous. He's engaged to Millie Bobby Brown.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
How strange.
Yeah, there was a news article the other. I was like laughing because it was like terrible famine news article, like something horrible, and then it was like Millie Bobby Brown says John Bon Jovi not performing at her wedding. I was like, yeah, all right. This seems like news. I am somehow in an alternate reality where Millie Bobby Brown had to decide whether or not to have Living on a Prayer at her wedding, I guess.
So it's so wild to me that she's getting like married at 19.
I mean, I'm from a small town, so I thought I was like an old dried up maid when I wasn't married by 19. I thought no one would ever love me.
Getting married young doesn't necessarily bother me. Getting married to an asshole or stupid person doesn't bother me, as long as you have money. So like when celebrities get married young, I'm like, she'll be fine because she has money.
Yeah.
Are we recording, by the way? Oh, okay, gotcha. Perfect. Because that's the only thing that makes me like really fear about getting married young. Because like when my mom got married young, she just then, when she got out of that relationship, had like no career and work experience.
Lost everything.
Yeah.
Kind of happened to me. I was in a relationship in my early 20s where the guy like gave me his debit card and then was like, well, your money's fun money, so whatever you want to do with it. And so I was like, well, I'm going to do drugs with it.
And damn, I thought you were going to say a high yield savings account. Damn. I was so sure.
I love the thought that you think that the girl that was living in a trap house was thinking about...
Financial responsibility comes in the most surprising packages.
That's very true. It never came in my package. I'll tell you that. I am 2 generations removed from a Native American reservation. There's like one person in my family that has good credit. Genuinely.
Damn.
Like, it's just poverty and alcoholism.
On that note, welcome to Help with Hannah Jones, the podcast where I answer your questions, Dear Abby style. I'm Hannah Jones, and I have a guest in the studio today to help me do that. We're at Dude IDK Studios in Denver, and you might know her from Amazon Freevee, Vice TV, and Hulu. It's Jozalyn Sharp.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for coming.
Sorry to bum you out about my people.
You didn't bum me out.
Oh, cool.
I was in podcast mode, and so in podcast mode, you don't think about like caring and empathy. You're just like joke or not joke. Is this joke? Is
fair?
Do we heighten the joke or do we glaze past it because it's not a joke? I'm just kidding. I care. I care because we have some great questions. But before we get into those questions, how are you? How has your week been? You are in town in Denver for High Plains, right?
It was a dream come true. I am not a Colorado comic, and it was like on my manifestations for this year that I wanted to do High Plains.
Really?
Mm-hmm. It's on my January 1 journal entry. And I just love, I have such a love for the Colorado comedy scenes. Not just Denver, Colorado.
Back at you, babe.
Colorado. Oh, that's so nice. Colorado Springs. I mean, Pueblo even. Like, I've had...
Pueblo?
Well, listen, I've had fun in every city doing stand-up at this point, pretty much. You know, I'm going to do Aspen next year.
Everywhere but Boulder.
I love Boulder.
Shut up.
I'm not even kidding.
You're a pick-me. You're a Colorado pick-me. You're like, I love Boulder. I love Vail and Aspen, and every audience loves me. No. Fuck those rich people. They don't know how to laugh at anything. If you are listening to this and you live in Boulder, fuck you.
Rich people like me because I don't look like their daughter that's degenerate. Like, you probably look like their daughter that
Their
ran away.
degenerate daughter?
Yeah, I mean.
Wow, okay, thank you.
You look like you have money.
Thank you
You're so welcome.
So much because I'm just registering that as you saying that I have like straight teeth. Oh. And like clearish skin.
Like your parents could afford dental care and a dermatologist.
Yeah. The first time I ever had a clip go massively viral, I had a TikTok that got reposted to a Barstool-centric Reddit page, and the amount of comments that I got on the misalignment of my bottom teeth, I will never look at my own mouth the same way again.
Oh, that's so funny.
It was brutal.
All men say about, I mean, I'm fat, so it's just literally like fat in all caps. That's all. There's nothing ever interesting they have to say.
I will say that like I can track because my weight does fluctuate a lot, depending on whether I'm like having an eating disorder at the moment or not. Yeah. But like I can track me healing from an eating disorder because instead of really creative insults about my appearance, it's just fat.
Fat. Mm-hmm.
But then when I was like super anorexic, it was like your mouth moves in a disgusting way when you talk. The way you enunciate words makes me want to kill myself.
It's almost like all men or most men hate women.
Yeah, it's almost like the experience of womanhood changes depending on how you look, but is it in this few essential ways always the same?
Yeah, our value is based in whatever room, how much everyone in that room wants to fuck us is how much we're worth as human beings.
So true.
Mm-hmm. Isn't that fun? But we have home goods, so win-win.
So you were talking about how much fun you were having.
Oh my God, it was
High
so
Plains.
fun at High Plains. I got to DJ at the after party, which was on my bucket list.
That's a coveted moment.
Yes, it was very fun when
Very cool.
Ron came up and tapped me on the shoulder and he was like, "Do you want to go DJ?" I was like, "Do I want to DJ?"
My first couple of High Plains after parties, I remember quite vividly that that it's a lot like in college where someone cool will have the aux and the party's just like growing and growing and growing, and then all of a sudden someone trash will take over the aux and it'll be like their chance to show everyone what unique taste they have in house music, and everyone goes outside to smoke at the same time. And I was like, God, I will never DJ at this party because the idea of picking the wrong song and watching 50 Denver comics that I look up to all be a little bit disgusted with me at the same time, I would not make it through the night, dude.
You just gotta play the hits, man. DJing a party is not hard.
It's like a wedding.
Yeah, it was like, I started with No Diggity and then moved into Spice Girls, into Grills, I have a few deep cuts, but they're deep cuts that everyone knows, like Petey Pablo, you know?
And always, this is what I learned about DJing in college. DJ for the girls, because the girls are deciding whether people dance or not. The same way that when we advertise comedy shows, you want to put your ads to advertise to only women because they're the ones who make group plans. You want to DJ for the girls because they decide whether the vibes are fun or not. If the vibes are fun, the men will be like, yeah, I like Britney Spears. Toxic is a good song. But if the men's jam comes out, I don't even know what a man jam would be. Some fucking, I don't know, Playboy Cardi or something.
Counting Crows. I just showed my age.
And if they're all having a fun time, but the women are like, what the fuck is this? No one's dancing.
I mean,
because you've never seen just a group of guys on the dance floor. Never.
Oh, well, there was a couple times at High Plains this weekend where it was just guys on the dance floor, but it was like EDM when that was happening. You know, like anytime there was a twerk party, it was like all of the girls were in the middle of the floor twerking, and then all the guys were just sort of shuffling around the outside of the circle. Not a lot of dancers in Denver, let's just say that.
Oh, yeah, that's definitely true.
You know, all this man-hating talk we're doing, we're probably just really fueling the people who already think certain things about us.
Yeah, I mean, all of the men who are listening to this podcast like it.
Oh, good. Good.
They write in and they're like, I know you're going to be mean about this and think I'm stupid, but...
They're just tricking you to abuse them because they're into...
Yeah.
They want a free humiliatrix.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know. Guys do that to me on my TikTok. They'll like, and I stopped responding to hate comments because one time I responded and a guy was like, I love this. I was like, this is not the reaction I want. I want you to hate yourself.
Yeah. Okay, but...
Oh, High Plains. I have an attention disorder. We had the best time. Everyone was partying. We were doing drugs or whatever. So I've been like super tired because we were literally staying up till 4 a.m. And then getting up to get back to High Plains at 2 to do whatever was happening that afternoon. It was like a lot. And I'm very tired by Monday. I'm doing this dive bar show and I can't like see. The lights are bright and I know the stage is short. I know it's short. I understand that. But I'm committed to whatever bit I'm doing. And I can be quite a squatty comic, is what my friends call it. Spend a lot of time squatting and moving around the stage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I lean a lot.
Yeah, mine's more in the knees than it is in the top. But I went to lean to one side and I just misjudged for about a few inches. And my right foot went directly off the stage.
Oh, no.
I literally, you know what's crazy is the minute I fell, I was like, oh no, in front of all these people. That's what my brain thought.
Did it crush though, you falling?
Well, it was not at first. There was a huge gasp and people did the thing where they like stand in their chair and reach out. And because it was kind of happening in slow motion, I was slowly falling. It wasn't like all in one moment. I like went to my ankle, then my knee, then my hip, and I like reached out to the table for support, but it was a dive bar table, so it was uneven. So then I literally spilled all the drinks that were on the table because they all slid off the table. And then I just had to like put both hands up in the air to show everybody that I was okay, and that got an applause break and it was fine. And
prop comedy.
Yeah, you know, I'm just doing bits now. I'm trying things.
I also have a story about falling off the stage.
It's so mortifying.
Have you done the show in town, Dyketopia?
No.
Okay, huge friend of the pod. They record their podcast in the same studio. But it's a show by queer women. It's a variety show. And they also have comics on it. And I was doing it at this gay bar. They've switched locations a lot because they just sell out everywhere. And so they've had to go bigger and bigger. But this particular location was X Bar, which is a gay bar in town. And it was the first time that I had ever been there. Now, I was single at the time. And I'm bi. And I had recently shaved my head. And but like... If you're a bi girl and you cut your hair short, that means it's like time for the ladies.
Yeah, it's pussy eating season.
So I was like, Dyketopia is my debutante moment of this phase of singleness. Like realistically, my best chance to get some pussy this calendar year is gonna be at Dyketopia and doing a great fucking set. And so I wear like a super cute outfit and I wear these like platform black heels that are like maybe 2.5 inches of platform and like probably 2 additional inches of heel. very tall, but these were my like lucky comedy shoes at the time, so I was like pretty like well versed in them.
Yeah.
I looked awesome.
Yeah.
I get there, I go up to do my set. The acoustics for the room are weird, and the show so far had already been weird. It's like the acoustics were really bad, so then people kind of got chatty.
Yeah.
And since it's a variety show and it's switching back and forth from comedy, some of it doesn't require your full attention. So people were kind of being chatty. It was hard to get people's full attention. I just had a terrible set. Truly a terrible.
Was the pussy just like leave it in your brain? Was it floating away
Absolutely.
into the sun?
And also I had bad mojo because as soon as I got there, I saw a person that I had dated who was kind of like not into me after like a month and a couple months. And they were there with someone else who was so hotter than me. It was like, you made the right choice. Yeah, keep your options open. Like, for sure. I get it. I have like my fucking buzz cut. I look like an egg because I don't have a good skull shape. I only shave my head because I'm physically can't bear to have hair on it anymore. But so I get to the end of my set and I'm already like, wow, what an L that I've taken tonight. Just like bombing in front of this person that I used to go out with who rejected me, was here with someone hotter. And then now they're very sure about their decision.
Yeah.
They're probably looking at me and they're like, yeah, I'm not going to tell this person that I used to fuck her.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's a moment when you give someone the ick. When you bomb.
Oh, I gave them the ick so fucking hard. And as the final moment, I go to walk off stage and I misjudge where the stair is. And I fall into the person I had dated and the new hotter girl they came with. Like, I fall at their knees.
Whatever the gay version of ABC Family is, this is a movie scene from that.
It was, you couldn't, and at that point, of course, I'm kind of like.
I no longer feel bad about falling in front of a bunch of cokeheads.
At that point, I was like happy because it was like, well, this story got way better because now it's something that I can tell for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
As opposed to just being like, I bombed and it was embarrassing.
Yeah.
Now it's like truly the worst night that could have happened in general.
I mean, really the only way that it would have been worse is if you like tripped on your pants and they came down. Like if you like had your pussy in the wind and fell into your ex's lap. That would have been the worst.
Leaned their hand out to like help me up.
Nope. No, thank you.
And you know what? I haven't slept with a girl since because after that night, I turned all my dating apps off I turned them just to men because I was like, I can't bear the thought of going on a date with someone who was there that night.
And they're like, you look so familiar.
Yeah, that was the end of my bisexual career.
Yeah, you retired.
I think I might, if I'm, dating actively and I move to a new city is the only circumstance
this
that I would
is such a bisexual problem. To be like, not give a fuck about the men you fuck, but be so mortified because you fell in front of a bunch of queer people. Like, you're like, well, I'll never fuck any of these. If you fell in front of a dude, you'd be like, yeah, whatever, I don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because he would probably be like, oh my God, that's so fucking hot. She can't even stand. She can't even walk right. She's so fucking incapable.
Nothing hotter than a prone
She's like
woman.
A tiny little baby, like a sexy hot baby just learning to walk.
It's the sexy hot baby thing. That's what's wrong with men. That it is a problem. And I don't know how to tell it to people. I don't know how to have this conversation anymore. When guys are like, I like a short girl. I'm like, oh, okay, pedophile.
There's like one strike. And then they're like, I like a hairless pussy. And you're like, 2 strikes. And then to me, they're always like, I don't mind that your boobs are small. And I'm like, get out of here, fucking Dan Schneider. Of course you don't care that my boobs are small.
Because you want them to be small.
What else? You like this big round face, huh? Yeah?
You like that I sleep with a teddy bear?
Extra fat around my eyes? Is that the case?
Yes, they do.
I used to really like doing this trick with lip liner where you like fill in your cupid's bow so they're just like round. And then I saw someone point out that trait physically occurs more often in babies and that often you get like a cupid's bow as you grow up. So it's like making yourself look like a baby basically.
Why is everything we do to ourselves for funsies like, well, you're trying to be a fuck baby. Good job.
Every makeup trend is either, if you like actually figure out what feature you're trying to make look different, you will discover you're either trying to make yourself look like a baby or you're trying to make yourself look like a different ethnicity. Ultimately, there is no way.
There's no in between. Yeah.
If you want to emphasize your white ass features, it's not gonna look good. Like,
yeah, that's true.
I guess drawing on freckles is the closest thing we've ever come to like a truly whole,some.
Yeah, I draw freckles trend on every day, and my husband likes to tell me that it's light blackface.
What blackface is?
Yeah, it's like
20 or so across the
I'm
nose.
like 30% there. It's I don't know, man, but falling off stage in front of somebody, you shouldn't care, because what's cuter than a clumsy queer?
A queer who's really good at comedy and then walks off the stage with like a kind of moment, a hair flip.
I don't want to have sex with that girl. I want to have sex with a girl who's going to be funny in comedy in like 6 months.
Yeah, I mean, fair.
You don't want to have sex with the hottest person at the party. You don't want to have sex with the funniest comic on the show. That's too much pressure. You know.
You're so right.
Then the whole time you're doing it, you're like, oh, I shouldn't be here. It's like that imposter syndrome you get when you're on a show with a bunch of famous comics, and you're like, I don't belong here.
Yeah, it's so much more fun to do a shitty show and for everyone to be like, whoa, you're really good.
Yeah, you can't tell me you've not had more fun fucking like some shitty musician with bad tattoos than some hot guy who plays lacrosse.
Well, I've never fucked a hot guy that plays lacrosse.
Neither have I.
I'll be honest. I don't think I've ever fucked a guy who plays a sport. That's not really the type that is attracted to this.
Fair.
If you can hold a ball and throw it, this is not what you're looking for.
Fair. That's very true. I'm actually racking my brain. I don't think I've ever dated an athlete, to be fair. But I live a very different lifestyle than an athlete.
Yeah.
Sitting on my ass, smoking weed.
An athlete, if you will.
I am an athlete. An Olympic athlete.
Okay. So while you were here in Denver for High Plains, High Plains Comedy Festival, I was in San Francisco doing comedy. Thank you so much to everybody who came out to the San Francisco show. It was truly an incredible time. You guys made it such a special memory, and I can't wait to be back with an even bigger and better venue. One interesting thing, so I've been running an experiment lately, based on a theory that I have. I've been wearing a bunch of like giant oversized t-shirts and like big gym shorts and like sweatshirts and stuff, as a way to hack misogyny, and I think it's been working. But San Francisco, it was specifically so clear because the first 2 days of my trip, that's the outfit I was wearing. And then the third day, it was another big oversized t-shirt, but instead of gym shorts, I was wearing a mini skirt. And the street harassment that I experienced and the fucko weird shit people were mean to me, but then also like, oh my God, it was insane.
Yeah.
The first 2 days on the bus, this teenager would be like, oh my God, like, I love your tattoo. Where'd you get your tattoo? The third day, it's like, hey, sexy, get over here.
I got actually catcalled a lot at High Plains because I dress like this. I call this, my aesthetic is like backstage at Slipknot. Like that's my aesthetic. And so a lot of the times I'm wearing like thigh highs or garters or truthfully, and this is the God's honest truth, we're all going to fucking die. And I didn't like myself for a long time. So I'm going to wear whatever the fuck I want every day. I don't care. No matter how many men harass me, because it happens every time. I got catcalled at High Plains, but it was the best cat call. I was asking everyone, I'm like, what do you think they were going to say? Because I didn't get the whole cat call.
What did they say?
I only got 60% of it. First, he was walking past me, and he had a very thick accent, and he goes, wow, you're hot. I'm not going to do his accent because I'm bad at accents, and it'll just come out Russian. But and he goes, wow, you're hot. And then as he's walking around the corner of the building, he goes, in my country, we call you a... And then it just trailed off. And I was like, what?
Beautiful lady with a lovely personality. Probably has a lot to offer the world intellectually, artistically.
You think that's what that guy was gonna?
I think that's probably what he was gonna say.
I love this for me. I think he was gonna say whore personally.
Oh, quite possibly.
But But, you know, he's not wrong.
It's sad because, like, I don't want to succumb to, I feel like misogynists are always like, well, you get harassed because of what you look like. You should just dress differently. And it's like, no, it's not my responsibility to not get harassed. At the same time, it is a little weird to realize that, like, exactly 2 inches of leg skin and the, like, I guess the, like, easy access aspect of a skirt changed, like, so much of my day.
Yeah. Your pussy was too close to the public. They
were like, I can smell it.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but same thing. I wear a lot of thigh-high socks and skirts, and I posted a clip, and a guy, which still makes me laugh, he said, all due respect, you're funny as fuck, but I'm distracted by your thighs. And I'm like, no, you're not. You got the point of the joke.
Yeah.
You just think I'm funny and
I'm funny
also like my thighs.
You know what? And good on him for being able to hold multiple things in his brain.
That
sounds like growth.
He does not have ADD. Or his Ritalin is working.
Okay. Before we get into the questions today, number 1, I have shows coming up. Chicago, October 6th. Tickets are finally starting to really move, which I'm so excited about. Please find the link to that show in my link tree. And also, like, if you just support my comedy, like, the number 1 thing you could do to support me is potentially even send a reel to someone that you know in Chicago. You never know. That stuff helps a lot. Austin, November 4th. I am on a comedy festival. The show says that I am headlining. I do want to put an asterisk that this is not a standard headlining set. There's, like, a fuck ton of people on that show. It'll probably be a very short set, but the show will still be really, really good. I can't headline during that trip because of that comedy fest. That's my show for that trip. I'll try to be back to Austin soon, but I definitely recommend you come to that show. Des Moines, November 11th, tickets are up. Bisbee, December 15th, tickets are up, and then I'll have tickets for Tucson and Flagstaff soon in that same trip. Sign up for the text list, no matter where you live. If you want me to come to your city at some point, sign up for the text list. I get messages every day that are like, come here. And I'll be like, I have plans to come there this year probably. Are you signed up for the text list? And they'll be like, no, I'm just going to keep a lookout on your stories. When I tell you, you will not see my fucking Instagram story. You will not see my fucking Instagram story. I was literally in San Francisco at a gay bar after my show on Friday night, and someone comes up to me and they're like, oh my God, like, I love your comedy. I'm like, why weren't you at the show on Thursday? Why weren't you at the show on Thursday? It didn't sell out before you had a chance to get a ticket. And he's like, oh, I didn't know you were... You didn't know I was performing on Thursday. And much love to Garrett. He was absolutely great. But I just want to point out this is a common misconception. You will not see because Instagram doesn't want you to see because Instagram doesn't make money off of my shows, okay? The only way to actually be sure that you will have the opportunity to come to my shows is to sign up for the text list. Okay, rant over. This podcast is sponsored by the Patreon. Patrons have first priority to get their questions answered, and they also receive a bonus episode every month, and it's only $3. If you want to ask a question to get answered in a future episode, you can find the link to that form in the podcast description or in my link tree on any of my social media platforms. Alrighty. I'm sorry, that was
You're
so long.
so professional. I'm so proud.
Thank you so
Just to
much.
know someone who's so good at this.
Okay.
Good
we
job.
got some questions for you today. Number 1. How do you get through a rough patch of online dating? I recently moved across town and started dating online about 2 months ago. Since then, I have been ghosted 4 times and outright stood up 2 times. I get that these things are par for the course in online dating, but I've never had this many in such a recent run. How do you keep your head up when this happens? Signed, Lex, and they are a Patreon subscriber. Thank you so much for subscribing to the Patreon.
Did they leave their pronouns?
No.
Well, they're not going to like what I have to say.
It's okay to misgender them if they didn't leave their pronouns and they signed up anonymously.
He, she, her, they. Truthfully, Lex, here's a problem that I keep having conversations with people about, and I know it's easier said than done, but you cannot allow your sense of self to come from the way the world reacts to you. And I know that's easier said than done, but if you're making plans with people and they're standing you up, that literally has fuck all to do with you.
Yeah.
It has 0% to do with you. This isn't about keeping your head up. It's about reframing how you see being stood up. It's it's silly, but truthfully, every no. I mean, in comedy, my biggest pet peeve is talking to comics who don't understand the concept of being rejected as our job. They just don't understand that our job is to get rejected over and over until we don't get rejected. And they think that getting rejected is something to be taken personally. And you're allowed to have your feelings hurt. But this idea that you can be mad at someone for not booking you is crazy to me. Like, that's...
And yet I do it every day because I'm exceptional. But that's just because I have an incredible capacity.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
No.
Obviously, it's not personal. It's only personal when it happens to me.
Yeah. Because everyone hates me and they're thinking about me all the time when really they're not. And I think that's like the main thing for me is that I talk to a lot of people who live in their ego, and not to be too woo-woo about it, but...
No, go woo-woo.
If you're living in your ego, everything you are asking for is from people you don't give a fuck about. And that's like really hard for people to understand, is like, you're the asshole for wanting someone you don't even respect to like you. You're the one who's walking around going, I think you're a piece of shit, but why don't you think I'm funny? Why don't you want to book me? Or I don't even think you're that cool. Why don't you want to date me? You know, because at the end of the day, you don't want to date someone who ghosts anyways. You don't want to date you want to date someone who has a sack between their legs, whatever gender they are, and says, I can't make it, or says, you know what, you're not my type. Like, or, I mean, you don't want to date that person. Don't do that. That's stalking. But, you know what I'm saying? Like, live in the reality of who you are, and you will find happiness is easier to come by every day. You know, as much as I want to live in a reality where I'm the baddest bitch on the planet, which is how I truly feel, but that's after years and years of understanding how the world perceives me and allowing that to be a fact and not what drives my feelings.
Yeah.
Like, truthfully.
That's like an incredible high-level conceptual response. I think that's very true. Also, something that is hard to get through your head. It's like a pattern that you build over years and years and years. But I definitely think if you're online dating, that is the standpoint that you have to think from. And if you are taking every single thing personally, it is a good sign that you might not be ready to date online.
Yeah.
You might not be in the right headspace for it. What I will say on a more tangible day-by-day level, okay, this is such a hot take that I have. I don't have a problem with ghosting. I don't do it because I know that it bothers a lot of people and I don't want to bother people, but I personally don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think you are clearly communicating that you see no future in
That's
this.
very true.
I don't think there's any faster and more clear way to say you don't see this going anywhere than to just not respond. Like, that is the clearest possible response of all time. I think that to avoid ghosting, you're forcing someone to either come up with some creative lie or basically be rude to your face. And I personally don't want to know why you don't want to be with me. And I don't want to hear the fun little lie that you came up with either. I don't want to know the real reason or the fake reason. I just want to know that I can move on. Standing someone up is completely different because it actually does take something away from them. It takes their time, and I have not been stood up, and I know being stood up happens, but it should be rare. So this is the only part where I would start to ask, do you have a type that is maybe flakier than the average type of person? Would it behoove you to date people who are outside of that type, who might be less likely to stand someone out? Second of all, are you confirming the date day of? Because it is standard practice now that you should definitely confirm the date day of. And then I also, me personally, I confirm before I leave. Because I just don't want to waste my time traveling to a place and purchasing a drink if they're not going to be there. If you are doing all that and you got stood up 2 times, I would say definitely look into what your type is and start trying to date the opposite of your type.
I am a big fan of saying the things that you don't want to hear. And what I mean is when I met my husband online, and when I was online dating, guys would be like, oh, let's meet up. And I'd be like, okay, I'm really fat. And they'd be like, what? And I'd be like, I'm really fat. And they'd be like, okay. And I'd be like, I just want you to know I photograph really well. I'm really fat. And they'd be like, that's fine. And guys would still show up and then be upset
You're
that
kidding.
I was fat. Mm-hmm. So it's
after you say it like that?
Yes. So here's my thing is that no matter what we do within our bodies behaviorally, whether it's ghosting or not ghosting, we have no control over how other people treat us or how they react to us or what they expect from us.
Yeah.
And, you know, men expect because they want to fuck my face that when they meet me, they want to fuck my body, you know, like even though I would have full body pictures on there.
Yeah.
It's just this cognitive dissonance of the fantasy. So I would also challenge Lex to think, are you living in a fantasy? Are you asking questions? Are you verifying? Because I was really safety conscious when I online dated. So I would ask for their social media. I'd say, before I meet you, I need to see that you're a real person, you know? And so I would challenge that, you know, there is a possibility that there is more than one person pretending to be someone online. And they're not meeting you, not because they don't like you or they don't want to meet you. They're not meeting you because they're pretending to be someone else.
That's a good possibility too. Definitely ask to see social media. Also, like, maybe have a little phone chat. Maybe say, can I call you real quick, and plan your day on the phone. I think that the more that they can hear that you're a real person, I think it's really easy to absolutely fuck over a tiny little profile picture. It's a circle this big in your phone. I think it's a lot harder to fuck over a voice you had a conversation with. I mean, how many times have you sent like an angry email to customer service and then they call you and you're like, oh, I'm being so demanding, you know?
Never. I stand behind it usually.
I guess fair, but like I definitely like
I get what you mean though. There's
when you can remind people of your humanity. Like people will leave like really disgusting they'll like DM me a death threat or something.
Yes.
And I will respond and be like, this made me so sad to read. And they'll be like, oh my God, I had no idea you would see this. And I'll be like, I don't know what's going on in your brain to think that you're sending a DM, which stands for direct message, with the intention that the recipient does not see it. There are so many apps in your phone where you can type something I won't see. And in fact, you can type something literally anywhere else and I won't see it.
Yeah.
This is the only avenue you have where I definitely will see it.
Yeah, but what they're not saying is what they really mean, which is, I didn't think you would actually say something back. I thought I was going to be able to abuse someone who's a reflection of my own insecurities without having to deal with their response.
Who represents what hurts me in life without having to imagine that they're a person who has their own pain.
It's very strange. It's a truthfully, we live in this unfortunate place in time where so much of who we are is determined by how people see us on social media, how many followers we have, whether we're hot or not, whether we're talented or not. There's just a lot of pressure to be the most. Yeah. And I get that that's hard for people. And I get that sometimes, and I can have compassion that being online all the time might make you bitter and angry and you might want to comment hateful things. But at the end of the day, I just want every little bitch who does that to know that nobody respects you. Everyone thinks you're a little bitch. You're a pussyless bitch. Like, that's what it is. Like, nobody's reading your hate comment and going, what a fucking cool guy. I hope I get to party with that guy someday. Everybody's reading your hate comment and thinking basement virgin. That's what they're thinking. So this idea that it's just like sadness replicating sadness is true, but it's also just a little bit of somebody being an asshole.
Yeah. You're so right. So to sum up our advice, don't take it personally, but do perhaps, if you feel like it's happening more often to you, look into what you are doing. Are you confirming the date day of? And are you going for a certain type of person?
I think
and
that's
can you make
it.
yourself more human to them before the date and harder to fuck over and stand up? As far as ghosting, I would really say that, like, I think that people who get really upset by ghosting, I don't know. I kind of think that most of the people that I've met or heard on podcasts who get like crazy upset by ghosting, they are like extremely anxiously attached people to begin with. Yeah. And it's like, you don't like that you got ghosted because it brought out a fuck ton of like weird mental stuff in you. Whereas I think that when you're secure and someone is not responding to you, you are just not thinking about them, because I'm only thinking about the people who do message me. Yeah. I'm not thinking about the message I sent 3 days ago. It's down at the bottom. Yeah. I forget about that person. Like, ideally, you should be forgetting about anyone who's not giving you back energy, and you should only have in your brain space the people who are giving you the energy.
That's a great point. That applies both to the online interaction and the dating. You know, if it's not filling your cup, why are you trying to drink from
Yeah.
that stream, because truthfully,
because the idea that you would be attracted to or pining over someone who is literally not responding to you, it feels like you built up some whole fantasy world where you think they could solve all your problems, but like in actuality there's giving you nothing.
Yeah, and maybe you're just lonely.
Yeah. And we've all been there for sure. But it just, if someone if someone ghosting you is triggering your insecurities in like a way that is more than just like, I'm frustrated they don't have the balls to say anything, I would say that maybe that is an opportunity to look inward.
If it is crushing your self-esteem, I definitely agree, because that should be your reaction, to be like, well, that kind of sucks, and then it should be a move on from there, because truthfully, like you said, it's not, or like we both said, it's not a reflection of anything about you.
So true. Okay. Question number 2. How do I talk to my friend about the age gaps in his dating life? Me and my friend are 29. We are both single, but he is dating women younger than us regularly. Never below 22, but averaging right around 23 or 24. That seems too young to date for men who are about to turn 30. We've talked about it, but he and most of his circle of friends don't view it as an issue. Signed, Sleepy Steve. Thank you for subscribing to the Patreon, Sleepy Steve.
Sleepy Steve.
Are you sleepy because you're pushing 30?
You old bitch. No.
So he's 29 and his friend is also 29 and dating girls who are around 23, 24.
Is it wrong that I think that that's not a weird age gap?
I also don't think that's a weird age gap. I think you're right that you're noticing a pattern in him, and I think that guy's kind of like he's probably a douchey kind of guy, if I had to guess. I don't think that douchiness is crossing into morally wrong territory. So I don't think that you can really come to him with like an intervention type thing or view it as a problem. What I do think you can do, and what I encourage you to do, is make fun of him for it.
100%, especially because like, here's the thing about him is that he's probably immature. That's probably why he's not dating that 22 or 23-year-old because he's connecting with her. He's dating her for other dudes.
My guess would be that he has qualities that are attractive to women who are 24 and are not attractive to women who are 29. He probably maybe is a open mic musician, maybe doesn't have a great job, maybe his apartment's really dirty. That's probably just who he is. And those aren't crimes.
No,
they're just loser-y.
Being immature and dating someone who's at your maturity level, I think, is probably normal. But to me, if
he might be really into substances. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, you're good. If everyone in his group though thinks it's a problem, I feel like we don't have all the information.
No, everyone else in his circle of friends don't view it as an issue.
Oh, okay.
The person who wrote in is the only person who does view it as an issue.
And maybe this is I tend to overthink age gaps, and it's because I had a very weird grooming situation.
Same.
So that can kind of fuck with your head, where you're like, well, is this me just being like, well, I hung out with a 23-year-old when I was 15. What's the big deal? But
yeah,
that's a 8-year that's an 8-year age gap versus a 6-year age gap when you're both in your 20s is not the same thing. Because a 6-year age gap both in your 20s, you can both have rent, you could both have bills, you can both have jobs. It can be very similar. A age gap of 8 years when you're 15 and 23, one of you is in high school, one of you is at work. Yeah. It's very different.
Yeah, I definitely believe that if you are both out of college age, because I do think adolescence has grown and it kind of stretches to like 21. But I think if you're both of drinking age and you're both within the same decade, basically, it's fair game at that point. I think this guy is probably a douche. I think it's so interesting because like I have dated almost exclusively, especially when it comes to, I've dated non-men who are around my age, but when it comes to men, almost exclusively 5+ years older than me. Mm-hmm. But I could never date someone 5 years younger than me. I'm 28. When I think of dating a 23-year-old, I genuinely, even the thought of it makes me feel like a predator. Like that feels very nasty and disgusting to me.
I get that because I dated someone younger when I was 22. And it's like when you're 22 and like you can drink and your partner can't drink, you feel weird about it every time. And that's the part I think that people who have been in these situations either have been the older person or been groomed. It's harder for us because we understand that it does feel gross. So it's weird to me to some people that they don't question it.
I think it falls in that big swath of things that like you can't pick a fight with your friend over this, But you can definitely use it as an example of the fact that you and your friend might not have the same values and outlook on life. You just might not be as close as you previously thought you were, and you can have a little less respect for your friend. But I wouldn't make this a thing that you bring up to the whole group. It's certainly not worth it. I don't think it's likely that any of these women are being harmed solely by the age aspect. If he's a shitty partner, they might be, but not just from the age, probably.
I mean, I feel like if it's a pattern, it's about maturity, truthfully. And if it's not a dangerous pattern, like if it's not that he's 28 dating 17-year-olds all the time, then, and he's a 28-year-old dating 23, 22, 24-year-olds, it probably has more to do with what he likes to do, what he considers fun, what he considers a good activity. Because a 28-year-old woman is not going to want to go to a nightclub, but a 22-year-old woman is going to want to go to a nightclub. So it's very different. And people are like, all women are the same, kind of. Like, all of us in our 20s are like, let's do drugs and go out. And then we get tired. And then we don't want to do that. We want to read a book or drink coffee or, you know, we realized we were bouncing around in a nightclub for no one. We didn't want to really do that. So it's very different life from early 20s to late 20s. So I can understand someone being like, that's kind of icky. But at the same time, I think it probably has more to do with this, to your point. He's probably a douche or just incredibly immature. Like, incredibly immature. I tried to date older men for a long time because I was so immature. I just wanted to, like, I don't know, be a grown-up, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, it's got to be him. It's got to be his vibe. Something about him is attracting that sort of woman.
Yeah, and also part of me wonders, like, is it happening on an app or is his like social circle? I feel like every dude that I've known who repeatedly dates women who are a lot younger than him is just because he drinks a lot.
Yes.
And that those are the people that he meets when he's drinking a lot.
Because he's out at a bar.
Yeah.
And often he's dating
and he
their
like
friends.
has Coke and she's like, oh my God, you have Coke. Wow. Is
We
this
have
a
so
love
much
connection?
I'm so glad I never got into Coke, man.
Or like it's a comedian where they're like have the deep seated status thing.
Yeah.
Where they're like, I need to get the thing that's the best thing.
Yeah.
Because I never had it before.
But that's kind of what I'm thinking. Because generally, and before every man with a younger girlfriend loses his mind, generally, when those guys are dating younger girls like that, it's all about living a fantasy that they never got to live when they were younger. Like they were either like skinny and they didn't play football. And so then now in their 20s, they're finally getting to be like the jock, the guy that they looked up to, you know? If you look at I mean, this is getting crazy feminist, but if you look at anything having to do with men, it all revolves around impressing other men.
Yeah.
None of it has to do with us. They don't respect us, so they don't care if they impress us.
Yeah.
Truthfully, like for the most part. You're cool, Nick.
They're all gay. I'm sorry your friend is gay as fuck.
I think that, or this person is in love with the person that they're writing in about, and they're just trying
Whoa.
to. I mean, I'm not trying to be shady, but this kind of is giving like I'm in love with my best friend, and so I'm trying to pinpoint what is wrong with everyone they date. You know?
Yeah. I think that I would see that behavior in a friend and be like, eye roll.
True. I wouldn't say anything.
I'd
Or
be like,
I would
that's
make fun
my
of
least
them.
favorite member of the friend group. Low key. We don't do one-on-ones.
I would make fun of him, just like you
Yeah.
said. But I probably wouldn't hang out with him. He wouldn't be somebody that. But I'm also in an era in my life where I'm cutting people out. Like if we don't align, there's just no point. Like I'm not gonna pretend to be friends with people anymore.
Yeah.
Just because I'm afraid of someone not liking me, or just because I'm afraid that I don't know, I'll be perceived as a bitch. Like,
Yeah.
I'm just not gonna. I'm gonna do my best not to let that rule me anymore. I do worry about those things. I do have social anxiety, but social anxiety has gotten me nothing but held me back in comedy, held me back in my life. So if somebody does not align with you, just don't hang out with them anymore.
Yeah.
There's no point.
I love pulling back moderately. I really
Slowly.
love just kind of like, oh, I'm busy every time they're joining the group, but I'm free every time they're not joining the group. This is weird, mysterious.
Yeah, I don't have. I mean, maybe that is my social anxiety. I don't have the ability. I have to be like, I don't really want to talk.
Yeah,
to you
I think
anymore.
I like. I struggle so much with binary thinking that I only discovered recently that there is the option to you don't have to be beefing with someone or love someone. You can just kind of like not think that highly of them, but be perfectly civil around them and be perfectly kind to them every time you run into them, and then just like only talk shit to your very closest friends. I feel like I always used to have this like extremely black and white view of morality, where if someone was like a moderately shitty person to me, I had to feel like I was enemies with them, and it's just not true. And it made me feel like I was enemies with so much more people than I actually was, or that was necessary.
Well, in reality, like this idea that we're enemies with like we're not Roman gladiators. Like,
I didn't have enemies. Like, I'm a bitch who subtweets a lot. I don't have a sword.
Yeah, I talk shit a lot, and comics love talking shit. And any comic who's like, I don't like all the shit talking, I'm like, you're a liar. You just only talk shit to one person because
it just means that which is what I am. I've in a public setting, I'm like, I'm really trying to talk shit less. You get me around a couple people.
Oh yeah,
it's running like diarrhea.
Yeah, so it's like, and especially for, I mean, I don't know, a lot of male comics have not clued into that there's like a female comic network, and like we share secrets with each other, and they're like, a text will go out and it'll be like, beep, 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 don't talk to this guy anymore.
I think a lot of guys think that if they were shitty to a woman and she didn't publicly make a whole thing out of it, like the public calling out is like 1% of the whisper network. We all know who's assaulted everybody. It's just, what hill am I going to die on? What sword am I going to fucking fall on? Does this person even want to go public with their, but like on a low key level, we know everybody who is fucked.
Well, and this whole advice is all about morality. This idea of morality, like you're talking about binary thinking. I think it's our biggest problem as a human, is that we don't understand gray area. So many of us cannot hold space for two truths at one time. You can both be good at comedy and bad at comedy, meaning there's going to be people who watch you do comedy and it's going to be the greatest fucking thing they've ever seen. And there's going to be people who watch you do comedy and they're going to think that you should jump off a building. Like it runs the spectrum. And like this idea that, like, I don't know if you're like this now, but I've been doing comedy for so long where I used to like get all worked up about a bomb, but it only stinks on me for a couple minutes after the set. And now I'm like, well, you know.
I genuinely, the more that I've had the chance to like build an audience, I started realizing that like a set where I overall bomb, but like a few people at one table, a few younger girls at one table were absolutely fucking dying and came up and talked to me afterwards. That set is more valuable than a set where I did generally well and nobody came up and talked to me afterwards. That is a weird way to start thinking about comedy. That like, if you are not going to engage with the rest of my career, but you thought I was a perfectly pleasant host, that does not actually gain me anything on a material level. Not saying that I'm out here trying to bomb all the time. I'm definitely trying to do well all the time. But I guess I'm just like not as interested in doing passably well as often as I used to.
I agree with you. I used to be like on the kill hunt all the time. I was always trying to kill, always trying to murder, always trying to kill, always trying to murder. And then it became more about, for me, that the truth in the comedy for me was, and this is kind of up my own ass, but I can't help it, was, did I do a really good job of staying in what's fun for me? Did I do a really good job of saying what I think is funny? Did I do a really good job of just having a good time? Was I having fun? Because even if it's not a raucous applause and crazy set, but I'm having a good time, and like you said, 20% of the audience is having a good time, to me that is more valuable. You know, I'm gonna try and get everyone on my side eventually.
On a dollars and cents level, that is like literally more valuable.
Yeah,
it's crazy. Yeah, so sorry, bringing it back to the question.
I can never stay on topic. Every podcast I'm on, I can never stay on topic.
He seems moderately shitty. Revel in the ability to be like, that guy did a moderately shitty thing, but it's definitely not like an ethical line should be drawn. No. I think if you died on that hill, you would be in a lonely club and you'd be a bit of a Puritan.
I think you might have hit the nail on the head though. That the age that they're at, that's the age when your friends start to fall off. That's the age when you start to really figure out what's important.
That's so true. Like 29, I do feel like you're probably discovering that you're not similar to him. Like
in your early 20s, you'll put up with a friend who like pantses everybody. But like, can you imagine being 29 and going to like brunch and your friend is like pantsing everybody? You're not going to put up with that guy. Like,
men will, but I wouldn't. Men put up with absolutely whatever.
Yeah, but men will make an excuse for another man because, again, it's someone to stroke their ego. It's someone to say, oh, bro, she's so hot. How'd you get her? Oh, bro, nice car. Oh, bro. Yeah. I don't know. That's all the things. Girls in cars.
Okay.
I'm a sexist.
Next question, you guys. What are some best practices for sliding into DMs? I feel that there's a sweet spot in the relationship where a DM with romantic intent works. If you're strangers, it's not going to work, but if you see that person IRL often, then a DM seems cowardly. Just ask them in person. What are some tips for DMing people with romantic intent? Signed, Teach Me How to DM, to the tune of Teach Me How to Dougie. Thank you for subscribing to the Patreon. Teach Me How to DM.
Well, man. Here's the thing is I'm about to sound like a boomer, but
whoa, okay.
I have always been pretty good at picking people up. Like I'm confident, so people are generally attracted to some, like I am confident but also accessible. Like I'm not so confident where I can't be like, "Oh, I'm depressed." Like, you know, I'm confident, I'm loud. That is attractive to some people because I'm accessible. And I am just a big fan of being blunt. I am a big fan of saying to someone, I feel like we have a vibe. Like, is that crazy? Or do you want to like maybe have a drink sometime? Like,
that's great.
Like, I mean, I just feel like people overcomplicate it. And I feel like everybody I've ever talked to like that has been so blown away and turned on by the fact that I've just been direct. I feel like that's the key.
I personally shot my shot 2 different times in college and it didn't work. And I was like, okay, I'll just wait. I really don't like this feeling, and I clearly don't have a good radar for what is a possibility. Because I was totally out of my mind in my ability to read stuff. So I was like, okay, I'll just wait around for whoever wants me.
But what was you shooting your shot?
One time happened in person, and I just sort of made it clear that they seemed like I could.
I want to understand what you mean by made it clear.
And the other time was over Facebook Messenger.
Did you hand them a sexually transmitted disease screening? Like, what do you mean you made it clear?
No, I think the first time I probably said something like, would you want to make out?
I feel like that's a good, I mean, I feel like when you say it like a puppet, that probably makes people not want to make out with you.
No, I had a sock on my hand. It was really, I gave them the razzle dazzle.
You had a stage.
And they were like, I have a girlfriend. And I was like, oh, I think I read the whole last 10 minutes pretty wrong. I think we were living in 2 different realities.
Listen, I've been dead ass rejected before, but I don't
that's
care.
The thing was when I discovered the ratio of how much I wanted to make out with them compared to how much I did not like that feeling of getting it wrong, and the fact that I wasn't a particularly good guesser, I was like, those 3 things tell me that I don't need to be a person who initiates. Now, if you're a man and you'll be waiting around forever. If you just choose, if you're a straight man and your theory is, I'm just going to wait to see who approaches me, and you're not, when top 10% of attractiveness, you will probably be waiting a while.
Do you know what fucked me up and why I started doing that is when I started learning about consent. Is the idea of men being the initiators is one of the bases for why we think of them as the one who gives consent. Because it all comes from the man. Everything's initiated from the man. Mm-hmm. It's this idea that I don't consent to every single portion of the dating process. I consent to who I talk to. I consent to who I want to fuck. I consent to who hits on me. I consent to who I flirt with. I consent to who I fuck. That's really how it is for me. It's like, it's all about letting the person know that it's going to be so much fun and we're going to have a great time. But I give permission. I'm in control. That's what it is for me.
So that's better. That's a better way of going about your life than what I do.
But it's self-protective, though, because that comes from my own trauma. Yeah. From too many times of not speaking up about what I wanted, too many times of not initiated what I needed or whatever. And bad things happen. Bad things happen if you are not able to speak your mind. And I realized it trickled down to me not even being able to like tell a waiter that I asked for no cheese on my salad. You know, like I can't even do that. Like at some point I have to be willing, you know, back on my woo woo shit. I get on every podcast and I'm like, I swear I'm funny on stage, but I feel like inherently there's this thing, especially in women, where we don't feel like we can take up space, even when it comes to like asking for what we want.
I think what it was for me, I have a problem related to my trauma where I think men are deeply mean. And they are meaner on average, I think, than women, but I think I attribute a lot more like negative emotions to them. And like in my mind, and I would shoot my shot with a woman, because if a woman didn't want to fuck me but I shooted my shot, she'd be like, oh, that's sweet, that's a little flattering, but no. And I know that as long as I was respectful about it and not weird or pushy, she would think very highly of me, and I wouldn't feel weird around her again. Because I know what it feels like as a woman to reject. I have an assumption that if I hit on a man and he does not want to fuck me, he's like, that gross, disgusting fucking cow better get the fuck away from me before I try to ruin her life socially, publicly. Like,
wow.
And I truly have like a Never Been Kissed the movie kind of like assumption that like
you have
every
no
man
idea
is
how
out
people
to
talk
like
about you
prank
when
me.
you're not in the room, right? You must have no idea how people talk about you when you're not in the room.
I don't know.
You must have no idea. I don't think you see yourself the way the world sees you. Not to like sidebar that, but it's funny to me to think of you, because I'm looking at you, and from my perspective, everyone talks about how beautiful and funny you are and how cool you are and how hard you work. And for you to sit here and think that you would say to a disgusting man, I want to fuck you, and he would have the balls to say, you gross asshole, I'm going to ruin your life.
That's very sweet of you to say. And I wasn't trying to like fish for a compliment. I think what I mean is that like, I think now also I generally feel like I have a lot to offer the world, and I've built a lot in my life that I'm proud of.
Yeah.
In college, I had like very little to offer the world, and it was like, yeah.
You had less to offer than Chad in the dorm, the beer pong champ.
Yeah, I was homeschooled. I didn't even know movies. At least Chad's seen Superbad. Like,
that's fair. I mean, and that's something that I can have compassion for is homeschooling really does affect your ability to like get through these phases with your mental health intact.
Yeah. Because
socializing is incredibly difficult, and American adolescent socializing is built around, I watch a lot of drag. I'm very inspired by drag. And there was a Filipino drag queen who was talking about how growing up in school, it's survival. Mm-hmm. And that's what it is. When you're a kid, you're just trying to make it through without being weird or stinky or fat or any of the things that the other kids are trying to be. So when you're homeschooled and you aren't, I can only imagine that like being rejected is a totally different thing. You know, like I would be rejected from every day at school. Like kids would reject me for sitting next to them at lunch or on the bus or, at volleyball, or picking me in gym class, or when you pick partners in class, rejection is so prevalent, I think. So I can have compassion for the fact that it's probably harder to conceptualize that public rejection if you didn't experience it the way we all did every fucking day in public school.
Yeah, that was definitely
yeah, that's a different
factor.
Experience.
Okay, but so getting back to the question, you want to slide into DMs. If you're strangers, it's not going to work. I would say that's not true. I've gone on a date with a stranger who slid into my DMs. I went through a whole phase where I decided I was going to only fuck fans because I was like, I'm in my male comedian era. I'm going to I have followers. Might as well fucking get something out of it.
Yeah.
It was a weird, I don't necessarily
was it good sex?
recommend. No. Mostly wasn't sex. It was just sort of like a date.
Awkward dinners.
Was a little strange.
Yeah.
But
what would work on you if someone what worked on you when they slid into your DMs? What was it that like, oh, I might actually hang out with this person?
I think every person that I've been on or that I've responded affirmatively, whether or not it got to a date or anything, every person I've responded to from the DM specifically has basically said something like, hey, I know you probably, it's so silly to slide into someone's DMs, but I think you're cute. Just like very, not anything like weird or like
that it has to be very
coy.
silly, I think, in order for it not to come across as like overtly objectifying.
And I think it needs to be very straightforward, because I get a lot of messages where it's like, you can tell that they're trying to hit on you, but they're hitting you in a, okay, here's an example. I got a DM that was like saying they'd love to take me out after the show. And I was like, oh, like I'm not dating right now. At the time I had a boyfriend. So it was like, oh, I have a boyfriend. And they were like, no, I do too. I just want to take you out for a good time. Maybe to a gay bar. And I was like, hang on. I'm almost positive that the phrase "I want to take you out" means taking me out on a date.
Yeah.
I'm not the crazy one here, am I?
But that's the thing, though, is people will gaslight you into...
That traumatized me. So now if someone hits on me and it seems like they're hitting on me, I try to think of the one possible scenario where they're actually not hitting on me, the alternate meaning to what they're saying. And so I think that you should actually just make it really explicitly clear if you're sliding into a stranger's DMs. But yeah, it works sometimes. Every person that I know with a following who is single when they have their following and is like open. They have dated. They look through their messages and they look through the people who are hitting on them, and they're like, oh, this guy. Just make sure that your profile picture is like a visible picture of your face. If it's a picture of like a dog, I am ultimately not going to respond, because it would be too cruel to be like, I would love to know what you look like. And then
I'm not shallow.
And then I end up saying, what if I end up saying no? That would be really mean. So if you don't have your face readily visible, you should just make your profile public for a few days if you're going to slide in as a stranger.
I think it's different. It's harder if you know. If you know the person, I think that complicates things a lot.
Well, yeah, if you know the person, it's not sliding into a DMs. That's called having a conversation. If you're friends and you're DMing someone, that's just called a regular DM. That's not a slide. There's no slide. That's a ladder.
Yeah, fair. That's a great point.
If you know someone, the way that you express romantic interest is they post a hot picture and you like the hot picture.
Wow.
That is how it's done.
Can I ask how old you are?
28.
There's almost a decade of difference between us, and I never in a million... I literally thought you were going to say, if you like someone, tell them you like them.
Oh, God, with your words?
No. See,
Jozalyn, what the fuck were you guys doing?
We had MySpace. So you couldn't wait 4 weeks for somebody to go to their grandma's house and check the internet and hit on them. You had to hit on them in the moment when you saw them at the coffee shop.
Wow.
I grew up in a time where I used to have to wonder if I was going to see my crush over summer vacation, because he wasn't going to post on Instagram. She wasn't going to come on my Facebook comments.
That seems like it would be so exciting.
It was. That's like why I think we all just fuck each other like crazy like now, because there's no anticipation. There's no, will I see Brad at Walmart today?
Yeah.
You know, there's none of that. I don't know. I think that being direct is underrated. I think if it's someone you know, saying to them in person or saying like, hey, can I talk to you about something? And being like completely vulnerable is hard. Mm-hmm. People have compassion for that. So if you're like, can I tell you something I'm kind of scared to tell you? And then they're like, oh yeah, then you can be like, I want to have sex
I always
with you.
recommend, if it's someone that you know, staying out of that like flirty in-between zone where you think maybe you're building towards telling them, but maybe you're just in a friendship, because that is where you could actually be, it could actually be perfectly clear what your intent are, and it could be making the other person really uncomfortable. So I would say that like if it's someone that you know, and especially someone that you like see around, like if you have a friend group in common or a workplace in common or something, you actually just have to tell them right away, because you have to get the chance for them to say no. A lot of people, I think, try to prevent the other person from ever saying no, which really just ends up being very manipulative and uncomfortable.
Yeah, very strange strategy to think they're just gonna not say no until you're married.
But I will say that if you like someone, like if it's a girl that you like, she will probably post a hot photo. If she's single. If she's not posting a hot photo, I don't think she's looking, dude. But if she posts a hot photo, you can like that hot photo, and then she will know. You will be on a list in her mind. These are all of the people in my social network who think I am attractive. That list exists. It is constantly updated. And she will just have that information, and she will be messaging you and responding to you. And if she's not really talking to you or initiating conversation with you, that's her answer. So
this is what dating is like now.
3 months from now, you're still on that list. She could reach out.
Or you could just say, hey, Becky, I like you. And then she could go, I like you too. The end. Or she'll go, oh, no, thank you. And then you'll go, great, I can move on with my life.
A phone call?
Instead of, yes, a phone call. Instead of sitting around and
if I get a phone call, it's from my mom or my boss or the Democratic Party.
Well, listen, I just feel like 3 months of liking photos and commenting heart hands emojis under selfies is a wild way to try and connect with another human being.
I think it's charming. My last relationship actually started. I remember it so vividly because he liked my story on the same day that I discovered you could like stories. Like the little heart react, not like the big heart react. I didn't even realize that happened and that you could pull up and see everyone who had little heart reacted. So.
That's romance, kids. Happily ever after.
Okay, hell yeah.
Grandma, how'd you meet Grandpa? Well, he liked my story, and then for 3 months he liked my story, so I thought maybe he likes me, so then I liked his story for 3 months.
No, it was
so
just
then he
one
added me on
story.
Snapchat Pro, and then
it was one story in a John Mayer concert. Deal sealed.
Wow.
Yeah.
Maybe it's my own social awkwardness because I have an inability. I need people to be really direct. And so that's like my coping mechanism is I'm like, I think you're flirting with me and want to fuck me. Am I reading this wrong? And then that works really great on men. Men love that.
Really?
Oh, they love it.
I would be petrified.
Men way out of my league are like so blown. Like I literally, for funsies, sometimes I'll just do it. And I had said it to a guy once. I just walked up to him. He's very hot. And he couldn't even say words back to me.
You walked up to him. You had never exchanged words before. And you're like, I think you're trying to fuck me.
No, I didn't say that.
He's like, what? Who are you? My name's Mark.
I said, I think you're really attractive.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah,
that's really good.
Sorry,
I was still thinking you meant the same thing you said before.
Yeah, I'm so delusional. It catches on to other people.
Okay, we have got to wrap up, but thank you so much. This is such a fantastic episode. This is probably my favorite so far.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I feel so. Every time I do a podcast, I'm like, Hannah's never going to talk to me again.
No, you're
that's
amazing.
my trauma. You got to like photos to get dick, and I don't feel funny on podcasts.
Okay. Tell people where they can find you.
Wizardofjaws.com. It's like Wizard of Oz. I'll be all over the country. I'm literally doing so much stuff coming up. So please come out, come see me, come say hello. But more importantly, follow everyone, all of us. Hannah, all her friends, all me and my friends, because I am constantly on the campaign to remind people that like supporting a comedian isn't just saying I'm funny. It's so free to follow us, and it's the easiest way to
sign up for
us.
the text list too.
Yeah.
Followers, Instagram could go down tomorrow.
Turn my
Who the fuck
notifications
knows?
on.
Whoa, they have that?
Yeah.
Damn. You can find me at Hannah Jones Cool. You can get a text when I come to your city at the link in my bio. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great day.